Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Josh. I am a coach along with Kate. I'm based in Spokane, Washington, the eastern side of Washington State. I'm so glad you're here today. And we have a lot we want to get to today, but more than anything, we just want to serve you. So this time is really meant for you. And we hope that you'll have either a document open or a piece of paper and a writing utensil nearby so you can take some notes that you might be able to use in the future. We'll also be sending you some resources in Mary Angela's follow-up document or email as well. So you'll have lots of resources coming your way today. But if you feel like we're going too fast, my apologies. We want to get to a lot of stuff today. And just so you know, at the end of our time together, we will try to leave some time after the end of our hour for about 10 or 15 minutes of question and answer with Kate and myself as well, if you really want to dig into some more things as well. So lots of resources for you today. Again, we're here to serve you as well. As Kate said, we will be talking more about developing your accomplishment stories and some interview tips as well. Just so you know, to frame our conversation, we coach from a strengths-based model. And so we know that you have skills and talents and experience that you bring to the table. And we want to highlight those and really use those as you go in the career search process as well. So we're here to support you and to affirm those things and hopefully to give you a chance to dig even more deeply into those things and to remember, because it's easy to forget sometimes, where you've been and where you hope to go as well. We also want to spend some time as we think about briefly about interviews, just that chance to help you think about marketing yourself, who you are, what you've done, and what you have to offer. And if you see my eyes shifting, I'm not being shifty, I promise. I have a couple of screens open here, so just want to acknowledge that as well. We also will provide you some tips and tricks, and we'll give you a resource that later on in our time together, Kate will share in our chat as well. The bulk of our time will be focusing on a method called the PAR method, which will help you specifically in focusing on those accomplishment stories and the things you can really highlight to sell yourself and to show that you're prepared and that you have experience that's transferable as well. So we'll really dig into that for most of the time. We'll spend some time giving you a chance to work with a partner or two towards the end of our time together, but that's going to be the bulk of our session today. But really, we want to give you some useful skills, some time to think and to practice and to brainstorm. And hopefully all of the things we talk about today will also give you a chance to prepare yourself to think of more things that you can use to market yourself and to share more authentically about your experience that you have to offer to others and to your future employer, okay? So there's that. There's the frame of our time together today. We'll spend about an hour together today. We want to use that time really well. And one of the most important things we know is feeling connected. So in the chat, if you would, we'd love for you to introduce yourself very briefly. We'll give you a second to introduce yourself. We'd ask you to share your name, your location, the industry you're coming from in your previous career or maybe current career, and your hoped for next career or industry. And if you don't know where you want to go right now, that's okay. You can just write that you're exploring. So Kate, if you'd put those, oh, I see you put those in the chat. Thank you. We'll give you just a second to write those in there. And this is a great chance for you to see who's in the room and who you might be able to network with as well, perhaps in the chat or after our time together. So I'll give you a second. I'll be quiet for a moment, then I'll gather us back in just a moment. Hey, Ashley. Thanks, Lisa. Great. Kentucky. Great experience in education and social work. Great, you're open. That's wonderful. Thank you. Daniela from Texas, moving to Southern Florida. All right. Customer service. Great. Amanda, another Texan there. Thank you. Maybe make some connections if you'd like to. Pricing manager. Yeah, unknown. We're working on that. Okay, consulting. Great. Thank you, Jen. Another Texan. Okay. Pay attention to that. It's always helpful to see folks from similar regions. Great. Social impact, remote consultant. Okay. Looking for an organization you can grow with. Awesome. Welcome, Eric in California, nonprofit, and venturing into higher ed. Yes. Sai, thank you. In Arizona, continuing in tech. Wonderful. Ashley, another Californian here. Great. Military tactics, software development. And Susan, thank you. Great. Customer service. Andrea, thank you. Outside sales. Great. We have a lot of folks here. I'm so happy. And Caitlin, Hawaii. Education, looking into administration as well. Awesome. This is helpful to get some context. If you see some people who've been in a similar industry or going into a similar industry, you're welcome to contact them by chat. If you don't want to respond to that person, that's okay too, but it's nice to have some resources. Great. Connecticut, thank you. Accounting, any work in the business field. Wonderful. This is helpful. Okay, our time is going to be spent digging into some of your experiences with interviewing and with developing your accomplishment stories. We need those, and we want to help you highlight yourself as well. Kate, if you would, I'd love for you to start our annotation session and kind of give some tips and tricks for how to use the annotation feature during this time. Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
what I will do right now is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to use a feature called Annotate. And what that'll allow you to do is to write on my screen so everyone can see. I'm going to turn off, if you give me just a moment once I share my screen, I'm going to turn off the feature where it shows your name. So everybody's names will be anonymous. And so to use Annotate, what you'll do is go up to the little menu bar or view options area above where it says that I'm sharing a screen. Click on Annotate, which is a little pencil, and then you're going to go ahead and click on the text button. It automatically defaults to draw. So if you see that you're starting to draw a line, that's why. So you can just go to that little Annotate menu, choose text, and type your answers in on the screen. And if you have any questions or you have any trouble, I feel free to chat me. I also will have control to move things around. So if you find that you're writing over somebody else's, don't worry, I'll move that to a spot where it can be.
Thank you, Kate. That's helpful. This is meant so we can see what other people are experiencing or have experienced in the past as well. So you'll see the question is pretty simple here. When it comes to interviews, where are you strong? What do you do well? And where do you get stuck? So what do you do well and how do you get stuck, or where do you get stuck? Feel free to pop those in. As Kate said, she'll move those around. We'll give that just a second as we see those pop up and see what we have here. Okay, you can keep typing those in for another couple seconds here. I'll start reading some of these off as well. What do you do well? Yep, networking in the interview process, smiling, thank you. Yes, that's important, just to have that authentic smile. Sharing your details. Deal with what you can do, find a connection with the interviews. Oh, it's so important, absolutely. Giving clear examples in response to questions, that is a skill for sure. Making eye contact, sharing proven success with metrics and data, great. Yeah, not wanting to brag on yourself, all right, I hear you. That folks talk about that a lot. We'll talk about that some today, that bragging feeling, right? Accomplishments, when to use those well, absolutely. Where do you get stuck? Maybe giving too much information, rambling, what's the return on investment, the ROI, freezing and forgetting your examples. Okay, we'll talk about that. Remembering your accomplishments, feeling like you're bragging. Okay, another more bragging conversation. That word comes up a lot in these types of conversations. Get stuck with the expectations, blank out. Okay. Getting nervous and then being long-winded. Yeah. Get stuck for casting a vision without a team. Okay. Oh, this is helpful to see. Thank you. Thank you for sharing these things. Get stuck answering questions to their liking. Okay, great. This is helpful. Okay, do well, firm handshake. Thank you very much. Great, that's strong. All right, Kate, if you'd be willing to please take a screenshot of this, save this so we can use this in the future. This is all anonymous, obviously. Another place of getting stuck, anxiety due to many people being part of the interview process. I hear you. Yep. Okay, thank you. This is great. Okay, this is all gonna play into our conversation as well. Great. Okay, about 5 more seconds there. Thank you. And then, Kate, when you're ready, you can go ahead and close that screen down. Thank you so much for sharing all of those things. We hear a lot of those things often, and the highlighting of not knowing how much to share about yourself, what to share about yourself. I see a lot of common themes in there about maybe what you can do for some preparation. And that's a bit of what we'll talk about now for a few moments. As we said, we'll quickly address some tips for interviews, but the bulk of our time will focus on developing your accomplishment stories and that bragging sense, right? Bragging in the best sense of the term, how to set you up for success, making sure you know how to share and remember how to share about yourself as well. Great. All right. So if you have a document open or a pen or a writing utensil nearby, please use that. Write these down. Well, again, as I said, we'll share a resource with you after the fact, but we'd love for you to take notes if that's helpful for you as well. Okay, we're going to talk about before, during, and after an interview. We'll go quickly, and hopefully there'll be a few nuggets that'll be helpful for you as well. We believe that preparing for interviews really can set you at ease and help you gather your thoughts and help you to authentically highlight your strengths and skills, right? We want to set you up for success, and we want you to go in with confidence as much as possible. So really briefly, using the chat real quick here, what's one thing that you do to prepare in advance for an interview? What's one thing you do? You can just share really quickly in that chat section. You research the company. Awesome, Amanda, thank you. What else do you do to prepare for interviews in advance? Research the company and their team. Absolutely, yes, that's really wise, Shanice, thank you. Yep, search for job questions and prep answers. Wonderful, Jen. Okay, a chronological timeline of talking about stealing that from you, Eric. That's really good, thank you. All right, Andrea, using index cards to role play with a partner. Partners are so valuable in this process. Search on YouTube, finding content, finding connecting points. Yep, research in advance, set you up for success. Great, thank you all. If you want to keep popping those in, you can. We'll keep moving on. Prepare answers. Print a blow up of your resume and talking points. Thank you, David. All right. Yeah, my number one point on here, research, right? So you go on their website. What do they communicate about themselves, explicitly or implicitly, right? How do they communicate about themselves? So yeah, looking at their LinkedIn, their social media tells you a lot, and it tells you a lot about the people you may or may not know at the organization or who may be interviewing you. One recommendation I have for you as well, check out their mission or value statement they might have on there about their organization. That'll help you see if there's alignment for you as well and where those spaces for alignment are and places for clarification as well, right? So research, prepare, right? You want to consider, like you may be doing an in-person interview. You may be doing, a Zoom or social or on electronic interview or on the phone as well. So you really want to think about your technology, right? If that's in person, having your phone off, right? If you're also in person, it is okay to have a folio with you and something that you can refer to. It's okay to have a resource in front of you so that when if you feel like you're getting stuck, you can have your questions in front of you or a place to take notes. We're all different kinds of learners and communicators. When you're doing virtual interviews like we are here, consider your background, consider your attire, right? Consider your posture, your lighting. Those sorts of things are all important and are noticed by the interviewer as well. So it's often helpful to have a buddy that you're working with in advance to practice those things with, as others of you have said on here as well. I always think about in my interview process and when I'm coaching others, what are the top 3 things that you want them to know about you before the interview is over, right? If you have a Post-it note next to your camera on your screen, I often have a Post-it note up there when I'm interviewing. Think about those top 3 things you want them to know about you by the interviewer interview. And you can pay attention for when you're communicating those things or when it comes to Q&A at the end, that you can get those in the conversation as well. Always, always, always have interview questions prepared, right? As a person who's interviewed many people over the years, it is like a record scratch sometimes when people don't have questions prepared, right? An interviewer should give you some time to ask some questions either throughout the process of the interview or at the end, but feel free to have those written down or memorized as well. And you can have those in front of you. And maybe those questions are answered throughout the interview, which is great. You can scratch those off and get to some other questions as well. But what questions are most important to you? That shows you're prepared, you're being thoughtful, and that this matters to you, that you are inquisitive in the process. So always have those questions ready to go. Also, before the interview, the last thing before we move on to during the interview, self-care. hydrate, rest, make sure that you're coming feeling prepared and calm as can be, and that, that your space is comfortable for you in that interview space, especially if it's virtual as well. But we want you to feel that you're prepared for the time and you have taken care of yourself in advance. As a rule, I never rest very well the night before interviews, right? So finding space in my day, hopefully beforehand, can really be a good resource as well. All right, during the interview, right? We know that during the interview, in whatever form, we want you to show up. That's the number one tip. Show up, right? Both physically, early as well, but showing up in your body, right? Several of you commented that you can feel frazzled maybe, or you lose track, whatever, but showing up and feeling grounded, whatever that means to you, is important. We want you to show up and feeling comfortable, in clothes that you feel comfortable and confident in, and we want you to show up feeling prepared to answer questions and to ask questions as well. So whatever it means for you to ground yourself and feeling that you are showing up that day, that can really help you shine as well, obviously. If you lose track of the questions, right? If you're being asked questions and you are spinning, right? It's okay to reframe the question and to clarify with the interviewer, or to ask them to ask the question again in a different way. It shows that you're listening, that you might have a different learning style, or you need to hear things differently. That's okay to ask for those things as well. Listening, as always in an interview, like I was referring to before, is another key. Really, if an employer who's interviewing you is sharing a bunch, you want to show that you're listening and you're not asking the question that they just answered right after they've asked that as well. So listening, and after each interview question, think to yourself, how you can connect to their question, how you can show that you are a good fit for that role and that organization as well. And finally, always ask questions. Always ask questions, as we will try to reiterate today. Reframing those questions if needed for the interviewer, but you want to show that you've done your research and that you care about the position, and this is just not a throwaway time for you. Even if you feel like it's a long shot interview for you, show up, right, and be present there in your body and in that space as well. And then finally, after the interview, we always encourage folks to write a thank you, to express gratitude in the moment, right? Specific gratitude. It's no one wants really vague, hey, thanks for this time, but thank you so much for all you've shared about the company. I'm so impressed by X, Y, and Z. I'm curious to learn more and to go along this process with you. Email thank yous are just fine. People have thought those have been taboo in the past. They're just fine. Handwritten is just fine too if you have that resource, but always finding a way to express gratitude. And I always say, getting that out the door within 24 hours of an interview really matters. As we know, especially within virtual space, things move pretty quickly. Okay, that was quick. You'll get that resource before the end of our time together today. Actually, Kate, will you just drop the tool in there today? That it's a website. They'll give you a bunch of links. You don't need to access it right now, but maybe have that. You'll be able to save this chat as well to have that resource. We kind of flew through that section, and now we really want to dive into developing your accomplishment stories. All right. Kate, if you would, please share that slide for me. So we use a method called the PAR method. And when the chances you have to share your accomplishment stories often come up when you hear questions that start with, tell me about a time when, or how have you X, Y, and Z, right? So you're given a chance to share your accomplishments. So PAR, all right? There are three essential parts of the PAR method, and we want you to shine. So thinking about each of these three in some answers you have. So what was the problem, right? What was an action you took, and what were the results? So in the problem, you want to try to frame this positively, right? You're not blaming your previous employer ever, or dragging them down in your interviews. You never want to do that, obviously, but just try to frame it positively. Here was the problem, right? And then what was the action? What was the specific positive action you took to address the problem at hand? So being as specific as possible, and that could include numbers or a timeline or any number of things that show a specific action you took. And then you want to think about results, right? How did your employer or your workplace or a customer or you benefit from that action you took in response to that problem, right? So PAR, problem, action, and then the results as well. And really, accomplishment stories, far from being talking about bragging, right? An employer wants you to tell about yourself. They're here in this interview to learn more about you and to give you a chance to shine as well. So you'll get some softball questions, some harder questions, but each of those should give you a chance to shine for them. And coming prepared with specific examples really will allow you to do that. Giving these kinds of examples allows an employer to see your critical thinking skills, your problem solving skills, your leadership, your collegiality, your customer service, on and on and on. So yeah, PAR, 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 all right? Kate, do you have anything to add about PAR before we kind of move on to a bit of a reflection? Anything you would add to that?
No, I think some of you might have also heard about the STAR method. That if you do searches for ways to answer situational or behavioral questions like this, STAR method is very similar. That is situation, task, action, response, and PAR method is a little bit nicer because situation and task are sometimes really similar, and so if you practice with the STAR method before, PAR is really similar. It's just the S and the T kind of go in and under the P in one sort of go. But this is a really effective way in an interview to share what you're capable of and how you can handle difficult situations. And um, and practicing them and taking the time to go through the reflection activity that Josh is going to do with you is a great way. I saw on the annotation exercise that some people noted that one thing they struggle with is rambling, or you kind of lose track of what you wanted to say about a certain thing. So taking the time to sort of think through and frame it in this way can help you stay concise and really focused on what you want to highlight and what you want them to walk away with from that story.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah.
So we are going to move into a reflection time. Give you just like 2 minutes, literally, here to spend some time, maybe scratch down your paper or on your document to think. And you're going to have a chance in just a moment here to practice with a colleague based on what you identify here, right? So think of a time that there was a problem that you helped to resolve, right? Or to take action upon, and there were results, right? So what is something that one example, right? Today, we're going to focus on one example, then you'll have a chance as your homework for however long you want to, is to create a bank of examples that you can use in a variety of settings. So take a moment to think of an example that you might want to use, thinking about the PAR method, right? The problem that you were addressing, the action, and the results. So you don't need to type that into chat. We'll take a quiet moment or two here, and then we'll come back as Kate's getting some breakout rooms set up, and then we'll move into a practice time with some colleagues here. But for just now, take a moment to think of an idea and write that down.
If you're feeling stuck on what kind of question to answer, think of the questions that you've been most stuck on before. That can give you some good guidance.
Yeah.
And then the link I shared has some example accomplishment stories in there. So you can pull that up in another tab and look at some of those questions and kind of think about it that way too.
Your example might focus on a time that you worked or helped to bring a team together, or you worked through a challenge, right? Had success within a challenge and helped to move things forward. Sometimes you'll be asked about mistakes that you have made, right? And you can use the PAR method in that as well to show how you turn things around. It could be about conflict, could be about just about any problem that could benefit, that you help to benefit a customer or a client as well. If you're not quite grounded on one idea right now, that's okay. Maybe your time in working with another participant, an individual, will help spark some thoughts for you. So really the purpose of this next and basically a large chunk of this next half hour of our time together is to work with a partner we find that working through these things and helping practice really does set you up. Others were talking about having a buddy to practice with as well. And this is really a safe place as well. So we'd love for you to stick around. If you're able to come, off of mute to participate, that would be great when we go into breakout sessions. If you're not in a place where you can come off of mute or video, it's okay for you to drop off now. Kate is going to drop into chat some resources, a survey that we'd love for you to take. And if you aren't able to participate in the rest of the session, that's okay. We'd love for you to stick around if you can participate. We know this could be a helpful resource for you. So Kate will drop that into the chat in just a moment here. We do these sessions every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And we also have a Facebook group and Instagram as well. We would love for you to participate in if you are interested as well. So happy to share this information with you. Mary Angelis will follow up with additional information for you as well. So look for an email within the next couple of days, providing some resources and for you as you consider your accomplishment stories as well. But we really always appreciate your answers to a 2-minute survey that helps us prepare these in the future as well. So if you aren't able to stick around, we'll give you a chance to drop out now. Thank you so much for being here today. It's our pleasure to support you, and we're wishing you very well as you move forward. In just a moment, we'll open up some breakout rooms. We'll give you about 15 minutes with a partner. Kate, did you make groups of 2 or 3 today?
I was muted there. I'm going with groups of 3.
Great, thank
Or
you.
that's what I'm aiming for.
Perfect. All right. If you get into a group in just a moment here and nobody else is there, hold tight. We'll kind of move you around. We're able to move folks around so that you're with a partner or two. These are safe places for you to share and to practice with another. We hope that it's a good resource. So in this breakout room, here's the rule. Here's the instructions. I should have given that to you earlier. You'll share the PAR that you came up with, the problem that you came up with, and you created an accomplishment example for. And then your partner will ask you a question that will help you to answer what you just set up together, right? So you have, you'll explain to your partner what the concern was. Your partner will ask you a question that'll help you answer that, and then you'll get some feedback from your partner as well, and then you'll swap as well. We want you to use this as a chance to practice and workshop a bit with your partner to help them perhaps give you voice and share what you did well, but also maybe some recommendations as well. This is not advice giving time, it's giving ideas, right? And giving a chance to practice with another. Okay, so then we'll give you some alerts within your small group when it's time to move things around, but you'll have about 15 minutes or so to do this. Then we'll come back at the very end, do a quick debrief, and then get you on your way. But thanks so much. Kate, whenever you're ready, we can open up those breakout rooms.